morning, garden friends. I'm here in the pond garden, and as you can see, the waterfall is running and Mr. Frog is back in the garden. Spring is here, and I'm so excited to show you what's been going on in the gardens. This is going to be a full garden tour, spring garden tour, just to show you what is happening in the garden right now, what's growing, what isn't growing, what didn't make it through the winter, and some promising changes in the gardens that have happened in the last couple of weeks. And I think it's hopefully will be very exciting to see after a long, cold, snowy winter. It's just so nice to see everything starting to come to life and greening up. So let's get going. We'll start here in the pond garden and then just do a big loop around the property. All right, Mr. Frog is officially back in residence. Still don't have a name for him, so we're just calling him Mr. Frog for now. But the frogs are actually back in the pond, or I should say they probably just woke up from the pond. And of course, I don't see any at the moment. But yeah, the water looks a little bit murky. I was in here yesterday pulling out the frog bit, which died over the winter, and you can see I've left the dead vegetation here just to dry up and let any little amphibious critters get out of it before I toss it into the compost bin. So I'll be cleaning that up later. But it died over the winter, even though it's supposed to be hardy here. So I'll be getting more. I just placed an order for a whole bunch of floating plants for the pond, so those should be coming soon. Yeah, it's so nice to hear that waterfall again. Yay. Anyway, I did a little bit of raking of the bottom, obviously put in the pond pump that pumps the waterfall, and so that stirred everything up, it's going to be murky for a couple of days. So yeah, but it's looking good. I'm hopeful that the water lily that is over here, and I don't know that you're going to be able to see it through the murk, but there's a water lily down at the bottom there. And I saw some signs of green the other day, so I'm going to pull that up later and fertilize it and put it back in, make sure it's okay. So let's take a little walk around and I'll show you the good, the bad, the ugly in terms of plant material that survived or didn't survive. If we go over here, here's the patio. This mountain mint, which, as expected, I mean, it's a mint, so that is going gangbusters already. I'm not entirely sure about this plethora yet. I've been looking at it, and maybe it's just slow to come to life, but I think I see some life in these little buds here. So I'm going to wait a little while longer. I don't want to cut into it just yet, but maybe later I'll take a pair of nippers and just cut in and see if it's still alive, but it should be hardy here. The bog is looking very boggy, lots of algae, but that's okay. I don't mind the algae in there, but the cattails, the irises, and the horsetail all survived and are starting to grow up again. Some weeds as well. Get back over here. I'm trying not to walk on this bed here. This is going to get planted up somewhat this year, hopefully. So let's go back to the path. The weeping birch is finally coming back to life. I was really worried about all these plants because this is such a weird environment where it gets completely swampy this time of year and for a long time, and it's hard on a lot of plants. So this is my weeping pussy willow, and I'm not sure. I see signs of life in here. There are buds on this trunk, but I'm worried that I don't see a lot of activity out here in the outer branches. Again, I can later on come out and give it a scratch and see. I hope it survived. I'm a little concerned because the other pussy willow has already bloomed, so I don't know, I haven't lost hope yet. We'll see how these branches here, these buds develop. Hopefully, we'll see. Over here, I have to be careful because I still sink into this soil. It's very, very wet in here. This was a silver willow. I'll put the name up on the screen. Big rounded ball of blue silvery foliage that, as you can see, got completely trashed by rodents. And the trunk bark has been stripped. It's basically not going to make it. It may flush out this year, like it's starting to flush out a little bit, but long term it's just not going to survive. So I did take cuttings and stuck them in the soil, and we'll see if we can get any of these to root. Hopefully we can get at least one of these to root, and then I'll have a replacement shrub. The other thing I stuck in the ground here, these yellow sticks, I went to the rainbow willow hedge that I planted a couple of years ago and cut a whole bunch of branches from the yellow ones. This is bright yellow sticks here. I can't remember the name of the species. I'll look that up and try to put it on the screen. But I stuck a bunch of cuttings in the ground and a whole bunch of them have taken. So hopefully I can get some willow growing in here as well. Here's one of the drainage rills that goes to the bog, and as you can see there's still water in it and a lot of grass. It's just you can see my footprints here. The soil is so wet, I don't even want to walk on it. So there's still a whole lot of moisture in here. I will walk inside the rill though. The dogwoods made it. They're starting to leaf out a little bit. And then in here, the Joe Pye weed. Just starting to bud up a little bit there. I gotta get that grass out of there. That's some of that runner grass. But here are more of those yellow willow sticks. So hopefully I can get, it looks like they're rooting because they're greening up. So hopefully I can get at least one or two in each area to, some more, to root, and then it'll be a big combination of willow and Joe Pye weed in this very, very wet area. Burdock, gotta dig that out. My husband's honeybees are out here. I don't know if I've got him in frame, her in frame. They're out here foraging. Okay, so now for reference, we're in the corner of the pond garden. And I think most of these things survive. This is a sage leaf willow, and it's blooming, or you know, blossoming. The leaves are coming out. You can see the little pussy willows. This is the high bush cranberry, also leafing out. And then the black cat pussy willow, which I have a picture of these when they first came out, and they're black. They're beautiful. So these have all like flowered completely with the pollen, which is good for the bees. Here's another clethra that I'm not sure it made it. Maybe, actually, there's some life there. I don't know if the camera will focus on it or not. Maybe. Such a hard winter. Come around the spice bush. Spice bush is greening up nicely. Yay. And then this is a button bush down here, this little twig. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of signs of life here. So we'll wait on that. Around here, view of the pond. Yeah, oh yeah, there's little Henry, Sweet Spire, I think. Little Henry, I'll put the name up. Starting to see some buds looking like they want to push out. I guess these just come to life later in the season. It's still very early spring here, so we're probably way behind much of the country in terms of things greening up. Irises. Oh, there's a frog. Little frog sunning himself. Hey, froggy. Trying to gather some warmth from the sun. Okay, so that's it for the pond. A lot of work to be done here in the coming season. We'll walk up and over the bridge, and we'll head to the vegetable garden. But first, let me just swing around so you can see Susie, our cow, eating grass. But look at how green this pasture is. Isn't this gorgeous? Susie. Oh, Susie. She's eating grass. Yeah, good girl. But yeah, look at how green that is. You can definitely tell the chickens spend most of their time here because that upper pasture is a decidedly different color. Okay, so let's go to the vegetable garden. We'll walk this way. Okay. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but the maple trees in the background there, they're all red, the buds are turning red. So it's getting there. It's almost time. Whoops. All right. Chickens. Let's get in the garden here. So, daffodils. These are not here like on purpose as a decorative element. They're here as temporary storage. I had a whole bunch of daffodil bulbs about a year ago in November that needed to get into the ground, so I stuffed them here thinking I'd, distribute them the following spring. Yeah, that never happened. So they will get distributed eventually, but for now they're just going to sit here and grow. Okay, so this first row here, this is the double row, rows 1 and 2 that we combined, and we made this into our fruit espalier row. We put fencing up, and then, T-posts, and then hog panels. And then planted a 6 variety apple, which made it through the winter and is starting to bud out here. Still looking pretty good. Yep. And yeah, it is actually looking really good. And then down here we have the 4 variety pear. And again, that made it through the winter. The buds are looking okay. We'll see. We just had a hard frost, so maybe those might have gotten touched by a little bit of a hard frost. It's 3rd week of April here, and still very much big danger of frost for another couple of weeks yet. So this spring, I added 2 more trees. I found a 5 variety plum. So it's 5 different varieties grafted onto one trunk. So each one of these main branches is a different variety of plum. And I'm going to, it was not in espalier form, so I'm going to have to force this into espalier form by bending branches down and tying them to the fencing and pruning selectively to get these to grow along this fence. So it'll be a bit of a challenge, especially this one branch here that sticks out, like out away from the fence. We'll have to figure out a way to get that to bend back in, but we'll get there. And then I added a single apple tree, a Macintosh, which again, not in espalier form, but the structure of it is such that I think it's going to be relatively easy to bend these branches down and tie them to the fence. So far we've got 4 trees. If any of these fail, I've still got plenty of room here. I could add additional trees to fill in, but we'll go with this so far. All right, so this row here in the middle of the screen, let me back up. Woo, walking all the way down to the end of the garden. This right here is rows 3 and 4 combined together to make one big row. And this is going to be additional fruits. And I've got a bunch of stuff that I'll show you in another video that I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, different fruits that will be perennial, will be permanently here, and will fill up this entire row. Very excited about it. So row 5, this is Sue's garlic. My friend Sue comes in each year for the last, I don't know, I think this is like the 3rd or 4th year that she's been here in my garden. She takes about a half a row, this is actually more like 3/4 of a row, and plants her garlic. And as you can see, it's coming up like beautifully. She's got 2 different varieties of garlic in here, and yeah, so I'll see her again about June when the scapes start coming on, and then she'll harvest, I think around July is when she harvests. So looking good so far, Sue. And then the rest of this row is empty. Haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do here with this row yet. All right, so back up at the head of the garden. So last fall, before we, wrapped it up for the winter, we put a layer of composted chicken manure on top of all of these rows. Just a thin layer, because chicken manure is pretty potent. But this is old chicken bedding from the hoop house. Every spring we clean this out and then put it in a big pile and let it compost. And then the following fall, we spread it on the garden for some good homemade fertilizer. So each row got a dose of that. And then, actually this row here seems to have a moss problem. So I'm gonna have to scrape that up and address it. A little bit of lime. So not much going on in the garden just yet, but there will be imminently. Let's go over here to, this is the perennial holding row that is still holding the same perennials as last year, but a lot of these are going into the pollinator garden that I'll be working on this year. So most of them have started to pop up and look pretty good. May have lost a few. And as you can see in the next row over, the rhubarb has already started coming up strongly. I need to get some fertilizer in there and some compost. Continuing down the perennial row. Oh, little columbines came back. You can see the crackling in the soil. I really need to get in here and put some compost on top. Give these guys some food until I can get them in their proper place. This is lovage, I don't know how you pronounce that, coming up, along with weeds. My big comfrey patch that I'm sure I'm going to live to regret, but if anybody wants comfrey, yep, got lots of it. And then this is where I healed in the remaining shrub pots from the New Hampshire State Tree Nursery. And it looks like most of them are actually budding up, so that's good. All right, so at the end, and a couple of random roses that came from the property. We'll see if they survive or not. So I'm back down at the end of the garden. We have these pallets of our rock bags. We decided to try something new this winter and pile up all of our rock bags onto pallets. Keep them away from the fence line and hopefully keep them away from being nesting sites for voles. Might have worked. I'm seeing less vole damage this year. So this is our horseradish. Again, look at that runner grass. Definitely going to be working on this year, putting a tarp over this and just killing all this grass and trying to get a handle on this runner grass that keeps pushing into my garden. So horseradish coming up nicely, and then the asparagus row. We'll see how it does this year. I did see a few poking up along with weeds. This weed, red sorrel, but you can see a little tiny one. These are some new plantings that were relocated from elsewhere that, you know, I won't be cutting this year. But further up here, we do have older ones that are starting to put out some good sized spears. But again, I've got to get in here and weed. That will be this week's activity. Let's get in here and weed and get some compost put on top of this and some cow manure. Look at that red sorrel everywhere. Arrgh. Oh, look at this. This got hit by the frost though, you can tell it's squishy, so I'll cut that off. Weed. But already starting to come up. Alright, so that's the veg garden. Not a lot of activity going on just yet, but soon. This week a whole bunch of stuff is going in, and I'll be sure to bring that to you in a separate video. So let's take a walk out of here and go back up to the house, take a peek at the herb garden, and then we'll get into some of the flower gardens. So here we are up by the herb garden near the house. This was in a video, my last video, where I tore this all apart and replanted the chives and a few other things, and the chives have bounced right back, as you can see. They're looking pretty good, but right there, here, and, oops, pardon my shadow, right here, another little bit of that runner grass, so I gotta get in here and dig that out right away before it gets any deeper into the soil. But yeah, everything's greening up pretty nicely. Even the mints are greening up. It'll still be a few weeks before I can put things like the basils in here and plant borage and the lemongrass that I've got in the greenhouse. As you can see, even the oreganos, variegated oreganos, the marjorams, all looking pretty good. I do have to get in here and prune the sage. It's getting close enough, I think, to where I can prune. I'm seeing enough growth in these sage plants that I can hack them back. So yeah, looking pretty good. So let's take a walk across the front of the house. Again, look at how green this grass is. Already needs mowing. Well, except for that part. So let's go over to the shade garden. Okay, so here in the shade garden, at least this part of the shade garden, the plan for this year is just kind of maintenance. Trying to maybe fill in some spots where things have died, maybe move a few things around, but not a lot of major work is going on in this lower section of the shade garden. Up above, where it ties into the barn slope garden, that's a different story. But this, I kind of feel like it's in a holding pattern because I want to expand it over there. All the way over there. Yep. So, but that's next year. So for now, we'll just try to keep things in here happy and plug in some holes. And there are many. This section of the garden has mainly just perennials. There's nothing evergreen in here, no shrubs, not a lot of structure, and that's what I plan to change once I bring it out further into the lawn area here, adding more shrubs. This lawn area is actually more full sun, and it doesn't get to be shade until about the wall there. So I think putting some shrubs on the outer edges will help make this space feel more enclosed and kind of like a little secret garden. Nice place to sit out in the summer under the shade of the tree. So yeah, let's see what made it through the winter. Hosta's the lady's mantle, struggling a little bit. Looks like it got pretty hard hit this winter. And actually this hosta here was undermined by some sort of rodent, and it's still alive, but it barely has any roots. I stuffed it back in the ground because these shoots were coming up, and I'm hoping that it makes it. We'll see. Had a lot of vole damage in this part of the garden, unfortunately. But more hostas peeking up. And again, there's not a lot going on in here because it is all perennials. More hostas. You know, you just don't see a whole lot this time of year, hostas. There are still some foxgloves from last year, and I believe these are foxglove seedlings that I'll have to thin out. Also have a million of these maple seedlings everywhere because, you know, we're under a maple tree. So I'll be pulling these out for the next few months all throughout this garden. Yeah, there's another cluster right here. Oop. Yep. So yeah, looks like most of the hostas made it. I did notice the other day that I believe this is, some of this is lily of the valley. I know that is under there. So I'm gonna have to do some digging here, make sure I get that out. Lily of the valley, as you know, will just run amok. The big green clumps here, this right here is daffodil, but these big green strappy leaves are the naked ladies. And I know I've shown these before in videos, but the foliage for the naked ladies comes up now. Looks really pretty, and I've got big clumps of it all throughout here. And then in another month, this foliage will be gone and it'll disappear until about August. And then you'll see the flowers suddenly appear out of nowhere and with the pink blooms. So looking forward to that. I'll try to pop a picture up to show you what those look like. All right. You know, I left a plant tag in here. I don't normally tag my plants in these gardens. At least not the perennials, anyway. So yeah, lots of, oh, what is the name of this? Yep, having a moment. Lots of it, anyway. I'll put it up on the screen. Sweet woodruff, there we go. I started transplanting some of it under the maple, and as you can see, it's doing pretty well there. And I'll continue to do that and kind of get rid of it here because it's creeping into the seeding area. I've got some perennials in the greenhouse that I'll show you, but one of the things I'm going to be replacing are these heucheras. I've had them for a couple of years and they're not doing anything. So these are going to go, and I've got a few more things I'm going to stick in here that's more shady, can tolerate more sun. And then I've got some more heucheras that I will put over toward here where it's a little more shady. I believe these are forget-me-nots. That'll be coming up. Oh, and here's one more cute little thing, that a trillium that was here on the property. I just moved it to a safe spot. It was where it was going to get mowed. So I just moved it into the garden. Isn't that beautiful? And it'll be gone in, you know, a few weeks. It'll just disappear back into the ground and go dormant. So it's always kind of nice to see it this time of year. Fleeting. All right, so here are the gas tanks. Fence is open today. We just had a delivery. And in here, I've got a whole bunch of bleeding hearts just coming up. These have all, not all of them, but many of them have self-sown. So I've increased my number of bleeding hearts just by replanting seedlings. And actually you can see there are 2 more seedlings that I can dig up. Oh, this one, here's a, see, under here, looks like the rodents, the voles have been under here. They like to eat the roots, little buggers, but it seems like that's survived. All right, the Hakanakloa grass is coming back. Looks pretty good. More lady's mantle. Big hosta. Okay, now we're getting into some of the areas where there have been a lot of changes, which is good. Good stuff. Here is Annabelle, or what's left of Annabelle. This was a huge clump right next to the propane tanks. And I had mentioned that I was going to be digging these out, this one and the one that used to live over there, and putting them up on the barn slope. Well, that has happened. But I left one chunk of Annabelle here, pulled it away from the propane tanks, and eventually I'll have to chop it out again near the propane tanks. But I really like having an Annabelle here. It fills in this corner nicely. It's damp in this corner, which is great for hydrangeas. Probably doesn't get as much sun as it should, but we're going to keep one here. And actually it is starting to, I cut it back quite hard because I was transplanting it, but it does have some green shoots. This year I don't expect much from any of the Annabelles because they've been basically traumatized. But in a few years, they'll look great again. Have some Solomon seal and ferns, and I'm sorry about the shadows. Here we go. It's fern, native fern, mixed in with some Solomon seal coming up. All right, so we're in the patio behind the house, and this is where stuff has been changing quite a bit in the last week in particular. Back up here so you can kind of see what's going on. Right here is where the Annabelle used to live. And in its place, I moved, this is a little Japanese holly that was up there. I moved it here, along with some of the Weigela, and I'm gonna forget the names. Okay, so this is Midnight Sun Weigela, and this is a Mai Monet. Beautiful variegated foliage. So my goal with this little lower area, let me step back into the shade a bit. I wanted stuff that stayed low and mounded, and the Annabelle hydrangea clearly was not going to be that. That gets pretty huge. Because I wanted to be able to see the wall, especially from the kitchen. Let me back up here so you can get kind of a better view. You know, when I'm looking out the window, I want to be able to see that beautiful stone wall. So these will stay low, a couple feet tall, mounded. Hopefully they will grow together, so it'll be kind of an undulating wall of different foliage, which will be really, really pretty. I still have the, hang on, what is the name of that? Still have the little Princess Spirea, and then this is a Hydrangea macrophylla green something or other. Green cloud. And true to macrophylla form here in New Hampshire, most of it is dead, but down at the base you can see that there are shoots greening up. So hopefully it will come back this year. I'll wait for these to grow a little bit more before I cut all this stuff back. So hopefully it'll grow up again. So yeah, we'll have sort of an undulating mass of different colored shrubs, and then I'm going to add some more Acamilla, lady's mantle over here where there's a gap, and so those will kind of tumble over the base of the wall here. Up above, in the space that was left by my removing these three shrubs, plus another Mai Monet, which I stuffed up there, I put in something a little more, I don't know, I guess formal, in that it's a little more symmetrical. All evergreen shrubs, that will hopefully knit together into another sort of undulating mass of shrubbery. But these are all evergreen, and so we'll leave some interest if we back up over here to where the kitchen window is. There'll be some winter interest here left after all of the daylilies that are in the front die back for the winter. This winter, this whole area looked kind of bare, so it needed some work. Moved another spirea that was up here over, added another shrub. Let me take you through what I've got here. All right, coming up on the wall here, in this corner here is a little Mr. Bowling Ball arborvitae. Really adorable, kind of a bluish green color. The new growth has a slight reddish cast to it. It'll get a couple feet wide, couple feet tall, but can be pruned to stay nice and round and compact. This is the is it Double Play Artisan Spirea? I'll confirm that. If it's not, I'll put the right name down below. But I moved that over. It was a little bit over here. Move that over. I know this is probably closer than most people recommend you put shrubs, but I'm looking for kind of instant massing of shrubs, within a couple of years. And if things get too crowded here, I can move them. I'm not too worried about it. So that's a spirea. It's not evergreen, so that's okay. There's plenty of evergreen going on here that will add interest in the winter, but I thought it would look good here. Also has, some color flowers in the spring as well. And then we get into, this is all new right here. I have 2 inkberries that were kind of trained almost in a topiary. I'm going to allow them to flush out a bit more, but I think I'm going to keep the trunks exposed a little bit. I kind of like that. And then keep the tops sort of rounded and mounding. So I have 2 inkberries, inkberry holly, and I'll put the name below. And then right here, on either side, this is this is a Japanese holly called Golden Hellery. Hellery? Oh, it's variegated. It's very, very pretty. It's not fully yellow, but like the newest growth is yellow. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops as it grows, whether the yellow reverts back to green as it ages, and this is just new growth. But I thought it added a nice shot of color in this wall. So I have 1 on either side, and then in the middle I have, this is another arborvitae called Cespitosa. Cespitosa? I'll put the name below. Another rounded, mounding variety of arborvitae that I thought would look really cute there. And, again, evergreen, so it'll have nice interest in the winter. And then on the other end, 2 more inkberries. So we have 2 inkberries, an arborvitae flanked by 2 Japanese holly, and then another 2 inkberries, and then some shrubs on the end. Back over on this side here, we have the black cat rhododendron, which, let me try to get up close to it. You can see took some deer damage this winter, but seems to be okay. It's got buds on it, so hopefully it'll be blooming. I need to give it a good dose of fertilizer, some compost. Yeah, and hopefully maybe do a little pruning back of this damaged area to get it to re-bud and branch out again. But yeah, I think we've addressed the deer problem. I'll show you that in a minute. But this did take a hit this winter with the deer. They came right down through the garden and munched on that. Okay, let's walk up into the rest of the kitchen view garden, up the stairs. You can see everything is starting to grow. Hens and chicks. And if you remember in a previous video, this is the creeping thyme. It was bright purple in the cold weather, and now it's greened up quite a bit. All right, for reference, here's the row of shrubs that we just talked about. So we're going to go up 1 more level. This is still what I consider the kitchen view garden. on this side of the pathway that I can see from the kitchen. The peonies are popping up. These will be bright, bright pink. These were here on the property. I've relocated them like 4 times, and they keep coming up and they keep blooming. So yeah, hopefully they will fill in really nicely in here. There's a little gap there, but these are just small. They'll eventually catch up, I think. But that'll be nice. I have some Nepeta here along the pathway as a nice edging. Then we get up toward the pathway that goes further into the shade garden and the barn slope. On here, not too much, in this section, not too much has changed, other than I put the other My Monet Weigela right there. It did survive the winter. You can see little buds coming out, so that's good. Here are the Fire and Ice, 3 Fire and Ice hydrangeas. It's hard to see because they're all basically sticks right now next to the mulch, but they do have buds. I did just trim them back a little bit, took the old blooms off. So those are looking good. Come back up to the path here. Here's my boxwood hedge entrance into this section. So let's see, which way to go? There are some perennials in here that I've moved around a little bit. I'm going to be adding more perennials. It'll be easier to explain them once they actually come up and you can see something. This is the Mount Airy Dwarf Fothergilla. It was suffering a little bit last year. I don't see a whole lot of blooming this year, or budding this year, so I'm going to have to see what I can do to get this to revive. It took a little bit of deer damage. I could see little nibbles on some of the branches, but hopefully that will leaf out soon. It's a beautiful, beautiful shrub. Sky pencil holly. This is the honeysuckle, blooming out really nicely. I did add another little, it's an arborvitae. I'll put the name down below. It's different than the Mr. Bowling Ball that was on the corner there. But yeah, this will be a nice little low mounded arborvitae that'll add, again, more winter interest, since a lot of these are deciduous. And actually there's another one, let me swing around here, sorry for the camera swing. There's one right there, similar. Maybe by the time we get to that I will remember the name. And then back here we have the Twist and Shout. I believe this is the Twist and Shout hydrangea, which actually, I haven't even looked at this. Oh, there we go. All right, so there is some life. We just had a hard frost the other day, so I was a little worried about these hydrangeas, but there's some life here. Well, we'll see how that one goes. Again, with these Macrophylla hydrangeas here, it's tough. You get the late frosts and you might lose them. Geranium macrorhizum, again, the late frost we just had touched the foliage a little bit, but these will be fine. And I may divide these this year to get more clumps. Before we go further down into the shade garden, I'm going to swing back around and show you some of the things that have happened here on this barn slope garden, and actually take you over to the new fencing we have and a new arbor. So as you know, we have lots of deer here in New Hampshire, and in particular on our property we have a large herd that likes to move through and munch on things. So we finally bit the bullet and just put up some crude fencing that we can easily move because this garden is going to expand. So we have this welded wire fencing and T-posts, and we just put a little barrier. This part is going to get moved when we expand around the ginkgo tree and wrap that back into what will become the pathway here. It's movable, so we can move it when that time comes. And then up here, so that we can get in and out, I put a nice little metal arbor with a gate. Now the deer could, in theory, jump over this, but they probably won't because of the arbor. They get freaked out by things. So it's less likely they will jump over this little gate, even though it's only like 3 feet high. And then continued the fencing along here, almost to the barn, and then there's a little block there. They won't really walk, they don't like to walk on gravel, so I put a less formidable barrier there so I can step over it, but they won't push through that. So yeah, hopefully that'll keep deer out of this end, and then I'll show you on the other end where we had to run more deer fencing. But the magnolia is blooming, and you can tell the blossoms got touched by the frost here a little bit. But there are a few that look really, really pretty. Aren't these gorgeous? It's so nice to see flowers. And the daffodils are blooming as well. So the only change really in this corner, this is a white rhododendron. I'll put the name on it. It got chewed down by the deer, and then I further pruned it back. It was basically just sticks. So I pruned it back hard. I gave it a good dose of aluminum sulfate and fertilizer, and watered that all in, and hopefully that will revive the poor thing. It just got a really bad haircut. And I actually planted another one in this corner here. The plan being that these evergreen shrubs will grow up and form a mass that blocks the shed row and the tools in it from the kitchen window. That's the plan anyway. We'll see. Look at all these daffodils. These happy daffodils. Eek. These were random daffodils found on the property that I just stuck in here. They all seem to be yellow. So I have a whole pile more daffodils in various spots that are different colors that I'll be adding in here. So it'll be a nice cheery display. Everything else in this section is the same. I did cut back the Nishiki willow pretty hard. So that's blooming out nicely. These Caryopteris, midnight something, they are coming back, and I do have to prune them. These are like butterfly bushes. You prune them back hard, but you wait for the new growth to come out first before you prune them, so that's pretty good. So I'll cut these back like down to here, and these will grow up, flush out for the rest of the year. So it looks like well, actually this one does. So I think all 3 made it through the winter. I see some greenery there, right there. Yay. All right, coming down here, I transplanted Becker's peonies, as we call them, last year. Those are coming up. I also threw in some alliums, some white alliums that I inherited from somebody else. So these are all peonies in here. Okay, so this arborvitae is called Little Giant arborvitae. Same as the one in the kitchen view behind me. Added a couple more shrubs. Well, actually this one, if you remember last year, this is the Fire Chief arborvitae. No, it didn't grow this much over the winter. The little one that was here, it was probably about 1/3 of the size, got mowed down by deer. I mean, it was just a little nub, basically. So the same deer that, you know, ate the rhododendron up there chewed on this. So I went out and bought another one that was much larger, and now that we have the deer fencing, it actually has a shot at surviving. Yeah. So yeah, Fire Chief arborvitae there. And then here, this is a lemon thread false cypress, which will grow like 3 to 4 feet tall maybe, but again can be pruned, and hopefully that'll add a nice color accent. This was where a golden euonymus was that also got mowed down by the deer, but I'll show you where that went in a second. It's the other euonymus. Actually, I come back over here. I missed that in the first round. This is the other euonymus that also got mowed down by the deer, but it survived. It's just going to be a little wonky for a while. It has lots of fresh new growth, so it survived. But the other one I moved to the other side of the barn and put this this yellow cypress in here for some added interest. The whipcord western red cedar is still doing really well. Very happy about that. Unfortunately, up here, the what the heck is this? The mountain laurel. This is elf. Supposed to stay small. Now it's even smaller because the deer absolutely devastated it. Look at it, it's like it's chewed. The poor thing. It does still have some buds down here, so it's not dead, and I'm hoping that some of these little side shoots will bud out now and it will sort of re-flush. So again, like with the other rhodie, I gave it a good dose of aluminum sulfate and some fertilizer, and you know, we'll keep watching it over the summer, give it lots of water, and yeah, wish it luck, the poor thing. The double file viburnum is doing really well, flushing out with leaves. Yay. So let me step down here a little bit, show you what I've done on this little slope. Some creeping jenny. I know a lot of people don't like creeping jenny, but here it actually behaves itself pretty well. I think it's cold enough. So this is where I said I was going to do some changes. This is where half of the Annabelle cuttings got planted, so a whole mass of them. You can basically just see a bunch of sticks right now. But they do have growth. They do have green shoots, so I do expect that they will survive and thrive here. I will be watering them a lot this year though, because they're brand new and don't have much of a root system. And then I added this North Pole arborvitae. Oops. Camera. It's a smaller arborvitae. It's only going to get like 10 to 15 feet tall maybe, but again, it can be pruned. I thought it was a nice vertical accent right on the corner of the barn. So added that, and then it'll be framed or skirted by the Annabelle hydrangeas with the big white pom-poms. Very excited about that. And then I still haven't figured out what I'm going to put down here along the wall. I have time to consider that. I may do some geranium macrorrhizum because that's a nice lush ground cover, pretty flowers. So I may put some there just to kind of keep things consistent. So let's walk further here into the shade garden. Oh, and here is the dark night rhododendron that also got mowed down by the deer. I thought about yanking it out, but I see signs of buds sort of ripening on the sticks there. So, as with the other ones, I cut it back, gave it a good dose of aluminum sulfate to help, you know, further acidify the soil, and fertilizer. I'll come back with some compost and, you know, make sure that it gets a good feed and lots of water this year, and hopefully it'll reflush. And now that we have the deer fencing up, you know, we'll do better. We'll see. All right, some Carex. Again, I don't have the name of this one. I do need to cut these back. This is, you know, winter damage, but give it a haircut and it'll come right back. I'm actually going to be dividing these up and putting them in different places. I've already put a whole bunch right here from last year. Looks like most of them came back from the winter, survived the winter. The daylilies are already pushing up, and there's some daffodils mixed in with them, and you'll see daffodils sort of randomly scattered along this barn slope here. I did add a whole bunch of new stuff here, but let me just swing down, touch on a couple of things here. I talked about putting some shrubs here to block the blue caps of our gas tanks. I had one extra inkberry, so I stuck that in there. I think I might do another couple of boxwood on either side, and that should be enough all three can tolerate some shade, so that will be good. Above the gas tanks here on the slope, I've got a large swath of Solomon seal. This can tend to be a bit of a thug. I spent a lot of hours digging it out in the wall below, down facing the patio. And the clump is, the area is getting pretty big. So I think pretty soon I'm going to be cutting this back, digging chunks out. But for now, it can stay. It's great green foliage throughout the summer. It does die back. So I had mentioned before I wanted to add some more architectural interest here in terms of shrubbery. It's in shade, so that's going to be tough. Probably another boxwood or inkberry in here to add a little more interest in the winter. And hopefully these shrubs will grow up, cover the view of the tanks from up here, and add some interest from the kitchen window as well. Not much else that you can see. There's still, these are anemones that are buried under the leaves. I have seen some growth around the bases, so I know they still exist, which is good. I did plant some more anemones down here. I believe it's down, yeah, down there. Hopefully they'll come up. And then a few more perennials down here that haven't come up yet. So hopefully we'll see some interest in the coming weeks. We'll see. Let's see what else is going on here. Oh, the Simsifuga. They've changed, the crazy botanists have changed the names again, but that's coming up. 3 of those. And then here's the Aralia Sun King, which hasn't shown any signs of life yet. I'm a little worried. We'll see. Oh, my Sandy Claus epimediums, only one of them survived. And then the new foliage that was starting to come up got nipped by the frost. Here's new foliage. Oops, new foliage right here that just got nipped by the frost. So hopefully this one makes it. But the other two just sort of disappeared. I don't know whether it was rodent damage or what, but basically nothing but like dried out roots. Very disappointing. All right, more perennials in here, hostas and things that really aren't doing much of anything yet. So let's swing back up here to the barn slope garden. Oops. Let me come back up here so you get the full length view. All right, so we have the big row of daylilies. Again, this is because we get massive snowdrop off the edge of this roof crashing down here in the winter. Can't put any shrubs in here that, you know, they'll just get crushed. So these orange daylilies, great ground cover, look pretty, interspersed with daffodils, they'll be fine. And then below that, I'm in the slow process of filling things in. So here's another white rhododendron that I just planted. And then I did, oh, what are these called? These are Pieris. Hang on a second. It's a Pieris called Purity. Pretty white flowers. They're just going over now. I bought them in full flower, so they're probably a little earlier than they would normally be here. But the flowers are just going over. So I have 3 of those, so kind of a mass of shrubbery there. And there'll be more added in these spaces. There's daffodils scattered in here. Some more lady's mantle along the edge. I love me some lady's mantle. These are the azaleas that got absolutely chewed on by the deer. And I actually thought about throwing them out, like digging them, digging them up and tossing them. But there's actually, I don't know if you can see it, there are actually little buds on the stems that are greening up. So I trimmed off the dead bits and yeah, hoping that these flush out again. And now that we've got better deer protection, hopefully we can keep these going. These are Dorothy Hayden azaleas, white. I picked a lot of white shrub flowers because I like the contrast with the red barn. Having a bright red barn can be somewhat difficult in picking colors. I don't want to do too many pinks, although I've got some pinks in here, just because, I don't know, I want it to contrast with the red barn. So like the yellow daffodils are great, white flowers are great, but of course up here I did Rhododendron Olga Mezit, and these are pink flowers, as you can see already. They're already in bud. And I've got 3 of those along the top here. And then these are the Tiny Tough Stuff. This is a reblooming mountain hydrangea. And as you can see, it's got some buds on the stems already, and then some buds down here. So it looks like these made it through the winter. I'll do a little bit of cleanup pruning once I see where these buds are gonna blossom out into, because like these tips I think could be cut back, but it looks like those survived. And I've got 2 of those, one there and one there here, and this one also looks pretty good. So another Dorothy Hayden azalea, again mowed down by the deer, but I'm hopeful that there are some buds on the sides that look like they're greening up. We'll see. More daylilies. And then this one here is the 3rd Dorothy Hayden azalea that got mowed by the deer. I don't have as much hope for this one. This one may end up getting yanked. We'll see. So yeah, so far I've got, a selection of shrubs in here. May plant a few more in here this year. We'll see. I do need to get a good layer of compost on the soil. You can see some of it isn't the greatest color. And then maybe a layer of bark mulch. As much as I hate bark mulch, it does help with erosion. And on this slope, that's important. So some work there to do. Let me pan back here. I didn't mention this, but earlier this spring, I've been working hard at getting this wall. Let me back up here. Getting this wall built. Again, retaining wall, kind of a retaining wall. Sorry for the jiggly camera. But when I left it last winter, it was about there, just rounded the corner. And I did this whole section here. Stopped about there. I still have all that to do, but this up to about there, another 6 or 8 feet is where I really have to build it up. And I may do another run, another layer on the top, one more layer. This is the steepest part of the slope, and then as you get around to where that geranium is, it flattens out a bit, so the rock border will be much lower and much easier to do. So as you can see, there's been some erosion. Just this one winter washed all that dirt into the path. So this rock retaining wall is going to be very important to keep the soil up where it belongs, up in here. Okay, continuing on, here is the rest of the Annabelle hydrangeas that got transplanted. These actually came, these 3, believe it or not, came from the one clump that was in front of the patio wall. The one that was too big, bloomed like crazy last year. Broke it up into 3 big clumps, and these are very healthy clumps. You can see the green already flushing. I just need to make sure I keep these watered this year because their root systems were pretty damaged. So yeah, those are going to fill in nicely. Oops, as I trip, falling backwards against the barn. I have these big white snowballs. Be really pretty. I put another one of these golden cypress in here to match on the other side. Not that I'm really trying to do matchy-matchy, but thought it was a nice golden accent. The 3 Limelight Prime up here on the corner. Oh, I missed some pruning there. They are budding up, so they're looking great. I added another North Pole arborvitae on this corner. Again, more vertical accents in this garden. And then the Blue Muffin Viburnum. Looks like a big bunch of twigs right now. That is also budding up nicely. More Geranium macrorrhizum. I had worried that my Kousa dogwood didn't make it, but it is finally budding up here. For the longest time, it just looked like dead sticks. But I just have to be patient, I guess. Here in New Hampshire, everything is always kind of slow to wake up. So that survived the winter. I'm very, very happy back up here that this Kousa dogwood is going to continue to live here. Isn't that stunning? This is one of those cases where I saw it and I'm like, I just have to have one. It's a golden emerald arborvitae. I'm going to assume it's probably a sport of like green emerald arborvitae, but I don't know for sure. I just saw it and had to have one. It's green in the middle, you can kind of see, and then the tips are yellow. I'm hoping it stays like this as it grows. It's supposed to get 10 to 15 feet tall. We'll see. But I thought, again, it was another nice vertical accent right here in this garden. And I will back up and show kind of where I'm going with this section of the garden, but I thought that was a great addition. I threw in some Nepeta here along the edge, and this will be a good time to talk about the deer fencing. As you can see, let me back up here, I'm hoping the camera can pick this up. We put the same welded wire and T-post fencing all down the driveway of the barn because the deer were coming in this way as well. And then I continued the bird netting on the blueberry fencing across the west edge and then on the southern edge all the way across, so that the deer, which come from, slowly swing this, come from the top of the pasture, they come down the hill, and they were coming in here and eating everything that they liked, and they would just continue on. So my hope is the deer fencing directs them this way, then the bird netting keeps them out of here, and the bird netting on the south side of the blueberry structure just keeps them out long enough that they just move on and continue down to the lower pasture beyond the chickens. So we'll see. Eventually, I think I'm going to continue this permanent, semi-permanent deer fencing further down beyond the blueberry structure and possibly across the lower edge of the driveway there as we develop these gardens, because then they'll just come up the hill and you know, munch. Sorry, I just have to look at Miss Susie sunning herself. Oh, my dear dog. I love her so much. She's such a good girl. She's always close. Oops. Oh, sweetie. All right, so back to gardens here. Get distracted by cute animals. So yeah, the deer fencing hopefully will keep everybody out of here and from munching on the azaleas and the rhododendrons and the arborvitaes and all that. Okay, so I have one more new plant in here. It's this beauty. Let me get a good angle. Sorry, there's a plane flying overhead. I don't know if you can hear it. So this is a hinoki cypress called Wells Special. And it will probably get about, again, 10 to 15 feet tall, can be pruned for sure. But I love the way the leaves swirl. I don't know, I liked it, so it's here. This Calicarpa that I planted last fall, I don't think it made it. I think it's pretty dead. There's some bark damage done by rodents, and I cut into a couple of the branches and I don't see anything. So I'm going to give it a little more time, but this may just have to come out and something else will have to go in. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, I've got some Rudbeckia coming back. Oh, Liriope that got chewed by the deer. Look at that, they mowed it right down. So we'll see if it comes back, maybe. Rose campion, odd daffodils. I'll generally be filling in these edges with some perennials as the summer goes along. And then, you know, finishing the rock border here. At some point I will have to deal with this grass in the blueberries. That's a future project. But for now, I'll continue to focus on this part of the garden. Step back here. As you can see, I have the 3 sort of vertical evergreen shrubs now, and then I plan to add more shrubs, and especially around the Coosa dogwood, and just sort of create a tapestry of textures and colors in shrubbery interest throughout the year, flowering and evergreen, sometimes both. We'll see. It'll develop as the summer goes along, and then along the edges we'll have lower growing perennials filling in the spaces. So yeah, so this is one of the projects that, you know, I have for this year, is filling in this whole space as much as I can in one year and with my budget. And yeah, making this kind of an interesting spot. And as you drive into the property, this is sort of the first part of the garden that you see through the blueberries, which are budding up nicely. But this is one of the first parts of the garden that you see, so I want it to be something that attracts attention. Before we go any further, let me just divert up to behind the barn. I don't want to forget this section. This is the wall, the retaining wall behind the barn. One of the projects that we hope to finish this year. We have to finish it this year. We've been working on it since 2022, so it's time to finish this. But right now it is awash in daffodil blooms. Look at all these pretty daffodils. All of these came from this property. These daffodils for some reason are a little bit behind. But there were bunches of daffodil clumps randomly throughout the property. And over the last 10 years, I've dug them up and divided them, distributed them in various parts, including all along this wall. And they're just multiplying like crazy. I thought this would be a great spring shot of color, since most of the shrubs at the top of this wall, like this one here, are deciduous, and you know, there's not much going on right now. You can't really see much. So a pretty wash of daffodils while the rest of the border leaves out, I thought would be really pretty. So let me just climb up on the top of this, hopefully without, oops, tripping or dropping the camera. Let's see. Oof, here we go. So yeah, as you can see, the number of daffodils is just, it's huge. And these are all from my own divisions of clumps that were on the property. I didn't buy a single one of these, but hundreds, maybe even thousands of them, just in this wall alone. So pretty. We did have some damage up here. As you can see, I've got some little green posts here. I'm going to be putting bird netting across the back of this because the deer come in and munch on these poor shrubs. And, you know, they get a haircut every year, so they haven't really developed much in terms of mass because they keep getting pruned every year by the deer. So hoping to exclude them and give them a little more of a shot. We did have one fatality. This, I believe, is a snowberry that got chewed on. The base, the roots, got chewed on by some sort of rodent, and it just flopped over. It's dead. Its partner next door is fine, though. Seems to be leafing out. So I have one shrub I have to replace. But the rest are looking pretty good. I also have a number of grape hyacinths that are scattered around here too, also from the property that I divided and put up here. So this will be a mass of yellows and whites and blues eventually, I hope. Oh, let's walk along here. Actually, I'm concerned about the winterberry. They're not looking good. Oh boy. Maybe they're just late. We'll have to keep an eye on these winterberry hollies. But yeah, look at all these pretty daffodils. So happy. Yay. All right, let's go back down and continue the tour. To Miss Susie. Hello, Miss Susie. Hi, baby. You sunning yourself? You're a good girl. Yeah. It's like she doesn't like the camera. She knows when I have a camera on her. She hates it. Oh, sweet doggy. Okay, we'll leave her alone. You stay there. Enjoy the sunshine. So we're gonna walk back toward the greenhouse. And pretend that the pollinator garden doesn't exist right now. Although I'll show you, you know, the real life nightmare that it is. This week is the week that I will start in earnest. You can already see the daylilies are coming up strong. All those have to get dug out. So yeah, still haven't done much. There's lots that needs to be cut back. Like I had said in a previous video, I started on this corner. I'm going to be working my way inward, and I'm going to start on the other end and work my way this way. So lots and lots of work to do. Come down the stairs here. Oops. Try not to trip as I come down the stairs. So yeah, lots of work going on in here. Like I'd mentioned, this is the big project this year. The #1 project is getting all this out, all this grass out. And sorry for the shadows. It's bright sunny day. So you can't, it's hard to see between the shadow and the sunlight. Camera doesn't really like it. But yeah, all this grass is coming out. Big job this year. We'll get it done. So let's walk toward the greenhouse. Oh God, every time I look at this, it's like, it's overwhelming, but I know I'll just take it one step at a time. All of that is bee balm, just native bee balm. It spreads like crazy. Can we just comment on how blue that sky is? No filters. Gorgeous day today. Oh. If we could just have a whole spring like this instead of like what we've had so far. Just stunning. Okay, so actually I'll take a peek into the carport to show you what I've been doing for the last couple of days. Stacking firewood. Yep, we're getting our wood in for next winter. And yeah, my husband is splitting enough we're gonna fill this space. Yeah, lots more wood to stack. But that's almost done. And then I can draft my husband into other projects. All right, greenhouse. On a more positive note, we're just going to ignore the pot mess on the side. That's a whole other nightmare story that I don't even want to talk about. I've got some shrubs out here, some thornless blackberry that I'm very excited about. That's going to be in another video. some perennials for shade, some new perennials that just came in, the rest of which that I'm hardening off, the rest of which are in here. Let me get in the greenhouse. Move the rocks around so I keep the door from flapping open. Look at this greenhouse. It's packed full of goodies. I'm so excited about this. And I have more goodies in the house that need to come out here, but I gotta start making room in here by planting some of these. I've shown you a lot of this before, but you can see the tomatoes are just going gangbusters. The ginkgos, not ginkgos, goji berries. I gotta start taking these out of the greenhouse and hardening them off because they're going in that fruit row, which again I'll be talking about in another video. Lots of veggies down here, kales, lettuces and such growing very happily. Basils and onions, oh, lots of stuff. Some annual flowers, pretty flowers, some perennial flowers, agastache, however you pronounce that. Some Helen von Stein lamb's ears, one of my favorites. Yeah, just all sorts of good stuff in here. I can't wait to get this out into the garden. And then up here, I had to move all my Nicotiana, different varieties up here. They're growing like crazy. More seed trays that I have to get out and pot up soon. They're outgrowing their little seed trays. So yeah, lots of stuff going on in the greenhouse. And soon all this will be going out into the garden, except for the tomatoes. Yeah, can't wait. Whew. All right, well, that is it. That's the big tour, the big spring tour of my gardens. Lots going on. It's third week of April, like I had said before. April and May are just, I always feel like they're just a big, like, chaotic mess. Everything is happening at once. After a winter of nothing, it seems like everything needs to be done now. And so I'm trying to weed my way through the chaos and prioritize, you know, daily what needs to be done, keeping in mind the 5 projects that I limited myself to this year. But there's lots going on in the vegetable garden that needs to happen in the next week or two, which I will be documenting in sort of a separate little series that I think I'm going to start this year. I haven't come up with a title for it yet, but I think it's going to be something along the lines of This Week in the Veggie Garden, or something along that line. And it will be a weekly update on what is going on specifically in the vegetable garden, because I think that alone warrants enough time and coverage, I guess, video coverage, hopefully informative coverage, that I'm going to set that aside from what's happening in all the chaos here in the regular gardens. So my plan is to do a weekly update of what's happening specifically in the vegetable garden, taking you through the whole season of growing vegetables in my garden. And again, we're Zone 5, Zone 5B technically. I would argue we're 5A on this farm. I think we're in a little bit of a frost pocket, so we tend to be a little bit behind the southern part of the state, even though we're pretty centrally located. So, you know, what happens in my garden in Zone 5B as we go through the seasons, and all the different things that I'm growing. Pretty excited about it this year. Got some new stuff going in that should be interesting. So stay tuned for that. In between, I will be bringing you updates as we work on these big projects and fill in these gardens. May not be weekly, but hopefully every 2 weeks, or when something significant has changed. And I hope the next video I show you will show some significant progress in that pollinator garden in the back. We've got to get on that. We have to get on that. But anyway, so lots of stuff coming up this year. So many things. I'm very excited about it. So do come back. Thank you for joining me, and I do appreciate that you're here. And come back. We'll see you next time. Bye.